What is up YouTube, and welcome to this Fast 9 ending explained and spoiler review. A movie long in the making which was preceded by, in my opinion, one of the best franchise spin-offs of all time, Hobbs and Shaw. We are a world away from the gritty street racing world, and the series cements its departure from reality with the much publicised space scene, which is even more ridiculous than reported, with the Tokyo Drift boys making a rocket out of a car, and there's duct tape on the space suits. Now the movie does continue the storyline full steam ahead and introduces John Cena to the mix as Dom's brother Jacob. Yes, he was actually mentioned way back in the first movie, but don't worry, they explain why they look incredibly different when Cypher says the Toretto bloodline is famously mixed. The movie knows it's ridiculous and really does play up to itself. Unfortunately, MacGuffin for the story is as generic as can be, with it simply being a device which controls any electronics device around the globe, making whomever has both parts of the device and the genetic code from Ellie real powerful. The whole story goes way back when, into 1989, when Dom was working the pit crew with his father and his brother. Of course, his father was a race car driver, and we do know that he tragically passed away in a car crash. However, their dad did sadly die in a car crash which they believed was caused by a rival driver. In a rage, Dom actually sets up and ends up beating up the rival, which lands him in prison. And in prison, he learns how a certain fault in a fuel line can cause a car to blow. He suspected his brother of doing this to his father's car, leading to a confrontation when Dom got out of jail. Instead of pink slips, they race, for the consequence being that Jacob leaves the family, something their father's friend would tell Dom is a mistake, because you can never take the family from a Toretto. Jacob would then be recruited by Mr. Nobody, and then turn on him to get, yes, the MacGuffin of this movie. However, all along, it turns out their father actually asked Jacob to rig their car so they can throw the race, but it turned out to be a disaster, and he wanted to escape the debt that he actually had. Now, Jacob would then go on without his family, end up working for Mr. Nobody, and would become a rogue agent trying to steal Project Ares. However, Mr. Nobody had an ace up his sleeve and went on to actually recruit Han. Now, of course, infamously, Han died, and well, his death at the hand of Shaw was faked, and Han went on to work undercover and found two scientists who worked on Project Ares who were killed, leaving their daughter Ellie alive, and Han protected her as her DNA was actually key to turning on Project Ares once the two parts are connected. However, it all goes wrong, as Cypher, who at large at the end of the last movie, was captured, except she was taken by Jacob and his crew, hoping to get their hands on Project Ares for themselves. This meant that Mr. Nobody's plane was taken down, and then this leads to the crew to reform after Roman and the rest head to Letty and Dom to show them what happened to Cypher, and eventually they decide to go to that plane, and we have some incredible action scenes with Roman proving he's impossible to kill. However, Jacob is on site and manages to take one half of Project Ares and uses Cypher to hack into Mr. Nobody's database and learns where the second half is, and it just happens to be Edinburgh. Now, most of the crew do actually head off to Edinburgh, but we have Letty head off to Tokyo and finds Han, and well, it was a real nice moment. Han is, of course, an absolute fan favourite in this franchise, and to me, he was one of my favourite characters because I really loved his nonchalant kind of demeanour in Tokyo Drift. We also check in on the Tokyo Drift guys who are working on a rocket because, well, someone needs to take Roman and Tej into space there. Now, it's a very weird one. It's a very kind of shoehorned in crossover. This definitely feels like the, I would say not Endgame or Infinity War of this franchise, but it's definitely the crossroads where they try to bring everyone into it. I would have liked them to have a bit more kind of reason for being in this other than just, the team needing a rocket to get to the satellite, but it's an interesting one nonetheless. And it did seem weird to me that Dom didn't go there to talk to them, considering, of course, they all know each other from that last 5 minutes in Tokyo Drift. Now, in Edinburgh, Jacob tries to steal the other part of Project Ares as a really, really good chase sequence hits with the electromagnetic car, and they manage to capture Jacob as Otto runs to Cypher, as he would later attack the safe house after Han reveals he was hired by Mr. Nobody to protect Ellie and Ares. Now, Ares, like I said, is linked to her DNA. Now, how did Han survive his death? Now, in the movie, we see him actually get recruited by your boy Mr. Nobody, which is a very interesting thing nonetheless. Now, we have him get recruited and go and steal Project Ares, and then he would go on to keep it safe. But the thing is, we saw him die, so how did he survive? Well, we did have a very nifty line here where Mr. Nobody explains that his best agent has actually gone rogue, which was Deckard Shaw. We know Deckard Shaw killed Han, but it was all done. We knew that Deckard Shaw, or at least Mr. Nobody knew Deckard Shaw was coming after Han, which means they could have this as a cover, and they kept him dead so he could stay on the run with Ellie, whose DNA was integral to actually keeping this whole Project Ares from being used. But the problem was, everyone wanted this Project Ares, which we know Jacob would later find, and this whole movie happened. Now, we also learned that Jacob and Dom's father was deep in debt as he asked Jacob to tamper with the car, like I said, and well, that completely went wrong. However, the team have to get into gear, that was no pun intended, as Otto and Jacob launch the satellite and upload Ares, moving around to actually stop being caught as the others try to come and save Ellie. However, Otto betrays Jacob because who did not see that coming? And Roman and Ludacris head into space in the rocket car, which, my God, that was one hell of a scene. It was an interesting way to really do this. And to be honest, when they say the franchise was going to space, it was kind of overblown. And, well, it was even more ridiculous as well, which is just the absolute Fast and the Furious franchise there. And they don't even try to hide how this truck going into space makes no sense, as previous in the movie, all the things that they had in the rockets that they made all exploded. So, hey, luckily this one worked. Now, they stop the satellite as Cypher tries to kill Dom on the truck, but kills Otto instead. I really, really liked this whole kind of story with Jacob and Dom, and it was really nice as well seeing Helen Mirren return in her role as well, even as just a tiny little bit part. And I really liked how Otto had his hedonistic kind of mansion as well earlier in the movie, and that was just a whole diplomatic community. However, Cypher escapes, who will no doubt return next, and Dom and Jacob seemingly squash their beef as he's allowed to escape. No doubt he will return too, as he will actually kind of help stop Cypher, who helped Otto, and I really hope The Rock is back somehow for a reference to the John Cena and The Rock kind of WrestleMania matches that we had a few years ago. That would be really, really cool. However, the weirdest thing that isn't a rocket happens, which is at the family barbecue. As we know, the Torettos and the family absolutely love their family barbecues. But Brian's skyline turns up. Wait, what? Well, he left in the storyline, but, well, this is a big one as he's returned, and, well, it is his skyline. Now, of course, they did not want to actually kill him off. And, well, it was a really sad thing that Paul Walker passed away, because I was a real big fan of him. Now, are we going to get a sort of Disney-style virtual actor with Walker's brother reprising the acting duties? It will be the most Fast and the Furious thing to do with a virtual Paul Walker. Now, we do know that, of course, his brother did kind of stand in for some bits and pieces in his send-off movie, and it'll be interesting. However, Luke Hobbs returning would be especially cool, as The Rock did not rule out a return, and John Cena's now in the franchise, so It just has to happen. Now, in the post-credit scenes, we have something very cool. So after the whole barbecue and family thing, later in the credits, we see Han meet none other than Deckard Shaw face to face. Shaw, who has had somewhat of a redemption arc, has been looking for some actual data, punching a guy, and well, Han walks in, and that's it, face to face. This opens up the story, and the directors have said that it is actually a tease and litmus test for if they want Shaw to return to the mainline movies. Well, I think that's pretty cool. But that is it for this video. Please do drop a like down below. Please do subscribe with notifications on, and I'll be back with a Loki video tomorrow. I'll see you soon, and goodbye.